John Kennedy and Liam Brosnan back in studio to look at round 2 of the Garvey's Super Value Senior Football Championship, and I suppose in many ways we're moving into the couple of weeks where it's really getting serious now. A lot of teams probably out of the championship already, and some teams knowing that they must win games. So any comments, get in contact with us. 066 712 3666. Ivan will answer that for you. And you can text us as well, or WhatsApp on 083 300 3300, and a comment or a question to the panel, or maybe just a general query, or you never know, maybe ask us about something that we'll go look for you and go find out. First of all, lads, before we get into it, did you find any new players at the weekend? Did you get cold?
Our list is much the same, really. A lot of ticks again decided, Donal.
Alright, well, we'll take a look at the list at the very end of it. Of course, we'll go through round 1 and Group 1 as well, and I suppose where else would we start? I suppose maybe John, I suppose with the champions East Kerry, back to West Kerry. They went back to Lisbol. West Kerry wore 2 different jerseys, and with Lisbol to start, and they had their red after it as well. It was a comfortable enough win. I'd imagine, John, it was expected to be comfortable, and it panned out that way.
Yeah, it panned out that way, and look, as we said before, in spite of missing the 2 Cliffords, they're by far the best divisional team. They're firm favourites for the county championship, and I think their form has shown that. West Kerry, who had done well in the previous round, missing the injured Rob O'Shea, but look, East Kerry have the strength and depth. They're playing with confidence, and they're improving. And they kicked 17 points.
Yeah.
Comfortable win.
Yeah.
And they're in the quarter-final without really raising a gallop, as they say.
Yeah, they did. I suppose West Kerry, I suppose, to be fair to them, you put up your stall. They won't be happy with that. They kicked 9 wides in the first half, which tells you, Liam, that they had a lot of possession, they had a lot of chances. And really, when you are the underdogs, you need to score your chances, don't you?
You do, yeah. And they probably needed the start that East Kerry got. They went up 5 points.
East Kerry got a huge start.
They got a great start, yeah. Darcy played very well for him as well. Was buzzing around. I think he had 3 points kicked by half time. And especially against the breeze, because we know this weekend the conditions across the board for all games were a lot harder than the week before. But in fairness, Darragh O'Shea up front, and I thought Cathal Ferreter, they worked hard. With the ball that they got. They tried, but just East Kerry are so strong all over the field, Donald. Their players, like Imot O'Shea again in the second half, kicked some long range scores. They're fantastic kicking. When you have the likes of Jack Sherwood, Dan O'Donoghue and these fellas, it's just they're just too strong, really.
Yeah, Darragh Roach against 6 points
up front. Yeah. Donald Downs, showed a lot of spark as well again. Seems to be coming back to himself again. And that's without the 2 boys.
And he picked up a black card as well.
He picked up a black card, and you thought maybe West Kerry could drive on from that, but they look very comfortable. Looking at all district teams, looking at everything, but East Kerry that's so far ahead of everyone in that facet.
And I suppose if you go through, a lot of their players are playing in Division 1 and 2 of the county league.
A lot of it they county.
Playing at a higher level as well. The other game in that group, of course, was South Kerry and Templenoe. Templenoe, I suppose, they're an amazing team in a sense. They are now in their 4th quarter-final in 4 successive years. That is some story for a club that were playing novice football a couple of years ago, to get up to this level and do enough to get into the busy end of the rounds as well. But they only had 1 point win at the end, John, over a game enough South Kerry outfit.
Yeah, South Kerry, as we said last week, going with youth, they're doing well, very unlucky again. But Templenoe, they don't seem to be beating any team, even during the year by much, but they're getting over the line. Again, Killian Spillane leading him there, Colin Crowley kicking 3 points, Stephen O'Sullivan, the same names are cropping up, and they're back in the business end of it again, they're getting maximum out of what they have. Great club, and they're probably, as you said, they went from 5 up, and they have what they have now. What happens in the future remains to be seen about with depopulation and numbers and so on and so forth. But they're really doing well. But their county men, Tig Morley, they're really leaning by example. Gavin Crowley, they're getting the maximum out of them. Great win, great boost for them. But look, you'd have to feel sorry for South Kerry. So near and yet so far, a 1 point defeat. And but look, a lot to be learned, and I'd say their management will get great hats from that, in that they are performing. so close, but not just there yet.
Yeah, I think to be fair to South Kerry, I mean, they were the business end of that game to the very end, but the experience of Temple, no, they were able to hold them from scoring, they were able to keep them out and the whole lot. And then, of course, Stephen Sullivan wins the free. And look, I suppose at the end of the day, if you look at it, Killian Spillane kicked the winner against West Kerry to give him the point win. He kicked the winner yesterday, and that's the experience, obviously.
And it's probably club football as well. So just that helps a small bit.
Yeah. And they came across the 3 club games
cohesion,
as well. A game that Larry McCarthy went to, our president.
That's right, yeah, and he was over in Cordle as well.
You wouldn't have to spoil it for Temple No now, did you? Give Temple No their couple of seconds of fame. Larry, he was inside in the crowd with him as well, which was quite good. That sets up the group, of course. Temple No now face East Kerry. Both teams, Liam, have won as such. Okay, they're both in the quarterfinals. Do Temple No have a right go at East Kerry now, knowing that they're in the quarterfinal anyway, or is this one where both sides just get a bit cagey and you kind of run out the subs that aren't on the team, or that kind of way?
Well, I suppose the only advantage of winning the group is that you were playing in number 2 from another group.
Is that much of an advantage, though?
Well, with all the teams that are in there,
as in, like, teams aren't great at, we'll say, like the soccer sense of the whole lot. I mean, you get 3 strong teams in a group.
Exactly, and if you look, I suppose, the 1 and 2s out of each group, bar probably the East Kerry group themselves, you'll be looking at the other groups are very close. Yeah. No, they're in much between the other teams. So this is the kind of a game, I think, where both teams will rest their main players. Yeah.
2 proud districts, West Kerry, John, and South Kerry. Back to Carsveen, I'd imagine, maybe Waterford at a stretch if the field isn't available. How do they approach this? I mean, both of them want to win. South Kerry haven't won a game, and it's been a while. West Kerry, I can't think off the top of my head, maybe in recent times. But how do they approach that game?
I'd say they'll go for it, Donal, in fairness, because you said it's all about getting 2 points on the board and, finishing off well. And, for
you're
both...
building for next year.
You're building, I was going to say that, yes. Yeah. Both sides have built. They have done quite well. Mm-hmm. And, we all know, like, the build-up, the lack of preparation, the time that's available for it, all that comes into it. But this will be, it's a yardstick, and it's a building block for next year. But I'd say, they'll both go for it. Mm-hmm. You end up with something rather than end up with nothing after the games.
And they're both two young sides as well. We'll be hoping that they go at it anyway and not make a kind of a joke of the competition where we had a few dim games last year and it didn't go down too well in a lot of places. So you'll be hoping that both teams will go at it, because you're hoping that for the young fellas, it's easy to go to a young fella in next year and say, look, we'll give this a good rattle. But if you're going to be throwing our hat at it, the young fellas say, sure, we did nothing last year. So.
Speaking of 2 teams that really went for it, let's move on to Group 2. St. Cairns and Kinmare Shamrocks. A draw, Liam. Which one of them will be more disappointed with a draw?
It's hard to know, because both teams had chances to win it. Yeah. And both teams missed a lot in front of goals. The one thing with Kieran's, I suppose, and I said it here last week, Cordle is a hard spot to go to with Kieran's. We always kind of made it a fortress, down through the years. I suppose Kieran's will be happy with their performance, because they're getting better. They had better performances now from Paul Welsh. Micheál Reedy was a big loss tomorrow at centre back. I think if he was there, he'd be that little bit of driving forward they needed around there. And of course, Eddie Horn, after coming off the airplane from America, arrived in with his bag and he came on and he changed the game completely towards the end of it.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, like we often talk about forwards and scores and all that, Luca Brosnan and Brian Leonard, two guys who are...
Luca did very well in Stephen O'Brien.
Didn't he?
Did very well in Stephen O'Brien, yeah. And Brian Leonard with Shawnee O'Shea had a fantastic battle all the way through it as well. And that was probably the front legging that St. Kieran's needed, because you needed to stop the 2 boys. Yeah. I know about stopping him, but you needed to nullify him a small bit. And Kieran's did nullify him a bit, all right.
They were competitive with him. Yeah. John, 2 points in the second half by Kinmare. I mean, I know, I suppose the weather was fairly bad in most places, but it's not enough really, is it? You need a bit more, don't you?
It's not enough, tough, but as you say, the conditions are contributing to all that. And like we just mentioned, Luca Brosnan and Brian Leonard, the 2 main men were well marshalled. Mm-hmm. And we said it here last week, like Shawnee Shea, Stephen O'Brien, they're the leaders. They're the go-to players to get scores. When they are nullified, it's where are they going to get the scores from? And that's the vital point for the Kierans. They're going in now to Field Rangers next week, and you win the game,
and you're through to the quarter-final.
You're through, and that's a massive carrot for them. Do you know?
They'd probably be disappointed with the goal they conceded. A big high ball into the square, and David Halsey got his toe at it. You know, so I think St. Kieran's going into the round now with Field Rangers will be very happy.
And I suppose Sean O'Kirk.
Yes, I was going to say that he made two massive saves in the second half.
Like what we said last week.
Who cleared the ball off the line.
Following on from last week, again, he's one of the top keepers in the county, and he proved that again. You know, so you need all those things, and you know, it's a very narrow line between victory and defeat.
I think Jimmy Lahan, we have to mention him because he did play well for Kilmare. He did show in the first half.
He got a couple of points as well.
He got a couple of points. He got a vital point there near the end as well. I think about the 51st minute. He was buzzing around there, causing trouble.
John Kennedy, one swallow doesn't make a summer. Jack O'Connor said that one time. I've probably saying it enough of times. Referring to Field Rangers, last year's semi-finalists, weren't they?
Yeah.
They didn't really do it against Rathmore, did they?
No, they did not. And you know,
would they be disappointed by that now?
They would. There's no doubt about it. Because you know, as you said last year, they made great strides. They played some great football, and you know, they were the surprise packets from it. But you know, you'd have to come back again and say, I know the Listowel has tugged out with them and all that, but they're a huge part of Field Rangers. Is one eye on a final. And you know, we're going over all ground here. Should those have been out of the way? You know, I saw it with some of the Tarbert fellas as well that are not involved with Shannon Rangers. Is the reason that we're waiting for a final, this club thing. You know, it's something that has to be looked at, but you'd have to say, not taking away from Rathmore.
And then I could turn that over and say, sure, it didn't affect Ballymac at all playing for St. Kieran's. They embraced it enough, and they went in, and the whole lot. They'll be disappointed with their shooting. I mean, you win the toss, you get a gale of wind, and it takes 20 minutes to score with wind at your back.
It's not good enough at that level, you know. And look, if you take Barry Mahoney's goal out of it, you know, it was a rout really, you know. And they'll be disappointed because I know that a lot of work went in last year with Field Rangers. You know, it's sometimes you put in the same amount of work, you don't get the results. But Rathmore, a very decent club side. You have the Ryans, you've Paul Murphy, you know, John Moynihan, all these guys. John Moynihan showed well again, you know. You know, they're in the business end. They're tough.
And yet, Liam, they might not get out of the group.
Exactly, they have to win. It's looking like that they'll have to
beat Kilmare
down in Kilmare to get out of the group.
4 o'clock on Sunday,
4 o'clock on Sunday, and Kilmare that'll be a hard place. Now a home game from, I think Kilmare will be relishing that.
Like, if you think about it, I mean, Kilmare. Okay, Dingle are the club champions, but I mean, like 3 of the last 4 years, they've been at the top end of that final. They've played a lot of good teams all the way through. Will Rathmore feel that, you know, this is good for us? You know, we can have one good attack at this guy. Well,
it's kind of I won't say it's a kind of a game you've nothing to lose, but you can go down and say we can have one crack off this because no one will expect anything of. They're intermediate champions from last year, and we're looking at Kilmare, who've been sitting at the top table for a while. You know, so if you were in charge of Rathmore, you'll be kind of going down and say, lads, we'll give this a good rattle. And when they have the likes of the Ryans and John Moynihan and these fellas and Paul Murphy, and they're all playing well. And the one thing that Rathmore have, they have a right. You look at some clubs, but they're a sticky bunch. And it's very, very hard to turn them over easily, and it's so they kick 116 the weekend, which in bad weather, which is good kicking. So they'll have to kick that again the next day to be a Kilmare.
They had a great spread of scores because a lot of teams that scored so little during the week, obviously the weather and the whole lot. But I mean, Paul Murphy 2, Mark Ryan got 2, Fionn Murphy got 2, James Darmody got 2, Shane Ryan got 4, John Moynihan got 2. They're producing players who didn't just get one score, but they got a second score, and they might have got a wide with it as well. So I mean, they're not afraid to shoot, basically.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. With the club that they have, they're a very sticky bunch, and they will spread the load around the field. They won't be depending on one fella to do everything for them. We know Shane is one of their main pivotal kind of target men, but they have guys that can chip in as well. Yeah. So I wouldn't write them off, but they're going down to a tough place against probably the second best club team in the county at the moment. Well, they proved it because they got to the county's club final.
So you're writing them off already, are you?
I'm not writing them off now, but it's hard to go down there.
Have worn the Kerry jersey too.
Oh, they have, yeah.
You know, and they're 8 or 9 scorers. You know, it's different to Kinmare. If you hold the 2 boys, where the scores come from.
And of course, John, like, you know, us being North Kerrymen and South Kerrymen, like, you know, an old draw sort both of them, wouldn't it?
I know we'll go to scores in, wouldn't it, if Kieran's win?
They'd put Kieran's out, then you're...
But isn't this a real championship game now, though?
Yeah.
Rathmore and Kinmare, down in Kinmare, you'll have a big crowd of that.
But Kilmare will have to play better than they did against St. Kieran's if they're going to get a result from Rathmore. That performance over in Cordle probably won't get them over the line against Rathmore.
I suppose they were only holding back in front of the president as well. So I didn't want him to thanks so much, guys. Get your comments in. We have a couple of comments coming in already. I'm going to fire one at you just to let you start off with it. It's a clever enough one, to be fair. Does the panel think that it's correct to play some games in pitches that are clearly not good enough, according to this listener, to host matches, especially in this bad weather? Some clubs have small stands, some clubs have no stands at all. Have you a small one out there in SD, or have you no one?
We've a stand.
Fine stand.
Well, I'll tell you, I was in Ashford on Saturday evening. I was in SD yesterday, but it's a huge boost for a small club to get a county championship game. There's no doubt about it. I think that the pitches all over the county now are at a real good standard. The pitches weren't a problem. You know, if there wasn't a stand, obviously with the weather, it was a problem for spectators. But I felt that, you know, there was atrocious conditions. But I know from our own pitch yesterday, it was an all-weather pitch. It was perfect. But the conditions, the wind and the rain, were dreadful. And, you know, if you hadn't a stand, well, it would be the real diehards. But, you know, it's very easy to say, we'll go into the big grounds, we'll play the matches, you know, in maybe the likes of Listowel or Carstevine or Austin Stack Park or wherever you may be, Fitzgerald Stadium, you know, that's fine. But what about the small clubs? I know the work that our own fellas put in, and I was in Adfert. You could see the pride in those guys. Yeah. The stewards, you know, we have a championship game here. I saw it at home yesterday with the same lads. They were at it for 9 o'clock yesterday morning. You know, a fantastic day and a great boost for the community.
And that's right, that you're showing off your ground that's the volunteers have put so much work into.
There's no doubt about it, and a lot of people have sold a lot of tickets. They've contributed to the draws, and now you get your championship match. I think it's great.
And in the same vein to that, it's amazing how the comments come in. Some week we're talking about David Clifford, but no David Clifford so far. The weather, Donal, at the weekend provides a great leveller for teams and players, and I think they all done so well in them. But what about the club volunteers who braved the weather, stewarded and parked people's cars? Yeah. You didn't park cars for people, did you, sure?
They did. They did, in fairness. And that's part of it, Donal. You know, these guys.
It is part of it.
Absolutely.
It is. And people worked in shops and people...
And like we're talking about a professional era. But this is the die-hard volunteer. Yeah. They're in every county, they're in every club.
It's the amateur ethos that we love. I mean, this is what it is. And I mean, obviously, you know, they were in Lisboa, which was fantastic to see them in Lisboa. Cordle had them.
And not only that, we saw a lot of, like yourselves, a lot of spread of food, and you know, everyone comes together. It is a kind of a carnival kind of a thing, all right, when it comes to the small clubs.
We'll talk about the food after the break, right? For now, we'll take a quick commercial break. Now you're welcome back to Terrace Talk. Donal Barry here on Radio Kerry. Of course, we're here till 8 o'clock this evening in the company of John Kennedy and Liam Brosnan, of course, and we're looking back at the weekend's action of round 2 of the Garvey's Senior Football Championship, and it's really getting to the business end. Group 3, a lot of groups are kind of over, and I suppose there's teams, but this group is wide open all the time. A Shannon Rangers win will put them right back into it. John Kennedy, of course, you were watching Shannon Rangers up close and personal against Mid-Kerry. Would they have been disappointed?
I'd say they would, Donal. You know, the scoreline, 6 points victory in the end for Mid-Kerry. You know, they always look like winning it. But midway through the second half, there was a point in it, and a great Rangers move, and I think it was Podge Boyle. The ball just dropped short. Sean Coffey in goals, and they went up the field and got a goal. Yeah. And, you know, they had Deborah Liam Carey, he got a goal, you know. The substitutions they made, Caelan Tehan came on there for the injured Jack O'Connor, who suffered a shoulder injury, and we'd hope that he's not too serious, you know, another great talent, and hopefully he'd be back. Gavin Horn came on and got a goal. And you know, the likes of Mike Breen and Darren Houlihan, that we said last week, they have a great spread of players, and let's not forget the Midtown Castlemaine contingent weren't playing. So that was a huge difference. But for Shannon Rangers, they have strides made, you know, very similar to Field Rangers last year, only that they haven't qualified as yet anyway. But Jason Foley was back at full back. He had a structure around him, and he had the confidence.
He was kind of settled, wasn't he? He
Correct.
kind of settled everything around him.
And I thought Mitch Foley, or Michael, Mitch as we call him, and Robert Stack, they were outstanding.
Yeah.
They played really, really well.
There was a phase that game where they were totally on top at midfield. I mean, they were gathering ball, they were attacking, they were spreading it. Particularly in the opening part of it, I mean, I was impressed with Shannon Rangers. The quality of the couple of points they got at the start, I mean, they were really put it down 40 yard over the bar.
Oh, they did. It was great.
Kevin Goulding kicked a massive point as well.
Kevin Goulding and Killian Langan were very impressive above. Great work about it, but above all, I thought that there was, they had a squad of players that were willing to play for Shannon Rangers, and Pat Driscoll has this brought into them. And like, as you said in the intro there, a victory next week, depending on the results.
You never know, then.
You never know.
Yeah.
But it's progress. But look, Mid-Kerry, as we said, they're a team with a lot of talent. Mm-hmm. Another victory without firing in all cylinders, I'd say.
They missed the rake.
They did, yeah.
I mean,
and that's my fear from Donal.
Will their forward unit be strong enough? No, admittedly, there was no Ian O'Connor and there was no Killian Burke in that. I suppose that will weaken you, certainly. But there's still that question mark over to have they got enough firepower to face
the big boys,
to face an East Kerry, to face a Dingle, to outscore them. I mean, yesterday when it comes down to it, they only scored 11 scores.
So, yeah.
4 of them were goals.
Like, they pulled ahead at one stage. They went up to 6 points, but then he brought it back to 3 again, and they could never really. They were struggling until they got the goal. It was the penalty really that seemed to have changed it.
Well, it was the 2 goals in 40 seconds.
They got the penalty, and then they got the goal after, and it kind of changed the whole game. Yeah.
But I feel there's a lot of pace in them. Keith Evans and those, they have a lot of pace now, in fairness, and Fikra Clifford. I think that they're a bit off.
Yeah, Fikra Clifford obviously, super. Can I talk about Derek Cleary? He's that we don't mention a lot. I mean, he was instrumental, particularly in the first half. I thought, he got on a lot of ball and he drove, and he was very, very busy, and he chipped in with his couple of points. Where's he on this radar by you?
Yeah, he's even last week he played well. I know he was substituted towards the end of the match, but he worked his socks off. And I had Dara at development squad level, and Dara is a very honest player, and sure, the Cleary breeding is there, so the football is in him. But yeah, very impressive now in the weekend. He's after getting strong as well. That's the one thing. Yeah, very strong on the ball as well. Yeah,
good hands. He's not afraid either. There was one incident in the first half where he went in and the keeper came out. Kevin O'Connor. It was a nasty enough clash, but both guys got up and went on. There was no showboating or anything like that. He was impressive. Kicked 2 points.
And a very intelligent footballer. Yeah.
Liam, Shannon Rangers, and we'll move on. I suppose maybe like a lot of districts, does it come across that when you're lacking that strength and depth on your bench, that teams like Shannon Rangers and South Kerry and West Kerry that you need, that you can't compete against these Kerrys who are putting on, and like Mid Kerry yesterday, sure they rolled off the big guns as well when they needed. Is that just something people have to live with?
It is, yeah. But look, East Kerry, you go back to East Kerry, everyone wants to play with East Kerry. Now, if you're a club in East Kerry and you want,
no, they do.
They do, yeah.
There was a time when
they couldn't even get a team. Remember, they were nearly gone out of the championship. They couldn't get a full field team. But that success will always bring that anyway. And for the likes of Shannon Rangers, the Kierans, and we saw down through the years, you're trying to get your best players from every club to buy into it. Yeah. And I think the only thing that's hindering the district sides at the moment is the club championships are getting very strong. Yeah. Are very strong, and I do agree with John, and we spoke about it, is that the finals should have been played and got out of the way, which gives the managers
give over.
The managers would have a chance.
It's not going to happen,
because you don't know, is he going to come, and when he comes, is he interested, or is he one eye on something else? And to be honest, I think a lot of players would have one eye on something else. Let's call a spade a spade. They'll go out but at the end of the day they have a big county final ahead in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah. Let's go to the other game, the group. I mean, it kept the group alive. I suppose it was always alive anyway. But will Keane Murphy have scored a more crucial goal in his whole life for Spa than that goal he scored yesterday, Liam?
I don't think so, no. It was a fighter's kind of a game, wasn't it?
It was a real club, wasn't it?
And to be honest, the change of the game really was the black card to be in Hannafin.
Yeah.
Because Spa went down.
Spotted by the linesman.
Yeah, Spa kicked 1-2. to rally his point.
Yeah.
No, so it probably was the winning of the game. But look, Spa, Tom Howard, Jack Savage is back. No, they're probably looking at another big game that they have coming in a couple of weeks' time as well.
But this was a big game for them. I mean, like, it was level at half time. They pushed clear 9-6.
Yeah,
Raleigh should have walked that
they
game.
should have pushed on. Yeah, when they had that, they didn't have the kick to drive them on. No, and
like the goal,
Barry John, I
kind of
suppose the injury then as well was kind of like if you could have had Barry John and Jack Savage on the team at the same time, but Jack came on for Barry.
Dan wouldn't know who to mark at that situation.
I'd keep the behind in both of them.
Dan O'Donoghue, who wore two jerseys during the game, actually.
But Dan's a warrior.
Himself and Jack Savage, I mean, that was box office, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Dan is a warrior. We've seen it here for even when he was with East Kerry. He was the main linchpin centre back for East Kerry. And he's a guy that obviously he was cornerback for Kerry for a league until he picked up a bad injury, and he was doing very well. But I think he's one we are really going to look at this year or next year for Jack, because last week I was amazed. He was in the middle of the field. He went up and he kicked 3 points. He was the same here the last day. He did the marking job the weekend, and like I said, he nearly had one hand in each jersey. But that's what you need.
Yeah,
you need fellas like that in your team.
But we said last week as well, even in defeat, Spa never give up. They stayed going at it right to the very end. Even their management team, they were driving him on. There was that will to win, and it didn't surprise me that they beat the Rahleys, because in a tight game, they're battlers. And so many people said today about Michael Stamdunho. He used all his experience.
Yeah.
He knows when to slow down. He rarely gives the ball away. And like Dan Dunho's Liam said, certainly a guy to be looked at. Shane Cronin as well.
Shane Cronin was good centre back.
Shane Cronin, yeah.
Shane Cronin has been consistently good at centre back, hasn't he? And he has that whole driving ability, drive through. I mean, he drove through for the goal as well, I'm nearly sure. Did he pass it to Darren Moyne, his brother, and the ball went back? Keane Murphy, bang, goal. Crucial goal, obviously. But their ability to push on from there, I mean, it's amazing what it can kickstart you. Now, obviously, they head to, or Shannon Rangers head to Spa, don't they?
Yep.
Will he carry a big bus or a minibus, or will he travel in small cars?
But the good thing about that, Donal, is that Shannon Rangers are going to Killarney.
Yes.
And a win, you could be in the mix. Isn't that what championship is about?
The fact that they're in the mix will concentrate. Last year they weren't in the mix, and St. Cairns was the same, and obviously we kind of left at the start of the show. But I mean, they're in the mix. I mean, they could come and there's nothing to suggest, the fact that they ran Mid-Kerry so close in a sense competitively in football, maybe not on the scoreboard, that they could give Spa.
Well, they could, yeah. And on the other hand, Spa will be saying, if we win this,
yes.
So it's it's going to be. Isn't it great? It's mouth-watering.
That's what you want for the championship.
That's what you want.
Yes.
Mid-Kerry and Rahleys. Is there a revenge in Rahleys' mind, or do they even look at the history books?
Well, to see that's...
Sure, John O'Connell should remember it, will he?
that'll be... Rahleys will have to play like they played against...
It's not beyond them.
It's not beyond them, no. But they probably will have to get a lot more out of their players than what they did this weekend.
Yeah.
No, to beat Mid-Kerry. Mid-Kerry to us, to everyone, probably would be the second best district side out there at the moment, player wise, and it's a big ask for him. It is a big ask for him, and I know you're smiling there because you think I was going to say St. Cairns, but no,
St. Cairns district. You have a couple of districts. You have a few North Kerry clubs, and you have a bit of East Kerry.
But Mid-Kerry, if Mid-Kerry click, they're a team to be watched.
They have the most potential.
They have the most. Yeah.
Now, a team that was not on your radar at the start, and I'm nearly sure that we asked you which team wouldn't get out of the group, and I'm nearly sure Liam Brosnan said Nagale are going over.
That's the game I said I was going to be going to.
10 points to 9. Nagale beat Crokes. I mean, that has to be not only the shock of this championship, but the shock of a lot of championships.
It was, and deservedly so. What disappointed me really was the disjointment of the Crokes. Really, they were kind of if Crokes, I was expecting a Crokes team that played against the Dingle the week before. They gave Dingle enough for a lot of that game, but they were a different Crokes team.
Yeah, completely. John, do we be bit difficult on teams like Crokes and Stacks that we, in our own heads, they're big teams. We don't give them time.
Are we looking at the history?
We look at the history. We don't give them time to transition. We don't give them time to say, well, look, there are two young fellas playing in this line that they didn't have last year, and they have a couple of injuries and they're missing a couple of players. Does that count? Or you're in the County Championship, you should do better?
It counts, Donald, to be fair. Like, they have a lot of players, they're in transition, there's no question, but we always think that they have that conveyor belt coming through. But I think that rather than talking about Dr. Crokes, like, it's talking about Nigel. To be fair, I was certainly one anyway that felt like, they'll be looking at the relegation game with Rallies. They won't be bothered about the county championship, but they had a different idea.
Sure, they might win it now in relegation.
And I think the big plus for this is their county men are leading by example. Diarmid O'Connor and Jack Barry, they're outstanding, and Stephen. And I mean, that's they're leaders. They're absolutely flying, and they won that game the last day. It was a real nip and tuck, and they won it by point.
And a player that really impressed me as well, Tommaso Hannifin. Was played a very good game last day. Yeah.
And yet, I would say to both of you, they only won it because of their backs yet again.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, they, just to put it in context, Crokes kicked 13 wides.
Yeah.
I mean, that whatever what they're shooting, I mean, they were put under that pressure by backs and by defences, and of course Stephen is kind of floating in between the full back line, the half back line, getting a lot of ball. And it was interesting to see Liam himself and Tony Brosnan in kind of a man-to-man, even though there was a bit more zonal than man-to-man, but it was still very interesting.
It was very interesting, yeah, and Tony kind of snatched at a couple of balls.
Great to see him back, Tony.
Great to see him back, yeah, because look, Tony's a scorer. And I think, look, even the Crokes boys, even though a lot of the kicks that he kicked, you'll be kind of saying he shouldn't kick him, but this is Tony Brosnan. On other days they could go over. He didn't have the shooting boots. That's all it was. It was like David Clifford and all on the final. Some days they go over through, more days they don't. But and I agree with John, that's credit to Nigel, the pressure that they put on them. They had a kind of a defensive structure, and they closed the Crokes had the ball probably for 90% of the time in the second half, but they just could not get it inside the 45-yard line for them.
I suppose the other thing, Liam, home venue.
Big advantage,
for a lot.
It does, yeah.
Damien Burke is another guy.
Damien Burke played very well.
He's been very impressive in defence.
And Jack Doyle defensively.
Correct, yeah. But they were at home, and fair play to them. Look, they're in the next phase.
Yeah, a team who were at home, of course, St. Brendan's Board versus Dingle. That was an awful tough ask in any day of the year, I'd imagine. Dingle won comfortably. I mean, they lined up without Paul Ganey, Barry Dan, obviously, I suppose, with injury. No Mark O'Connor. They didn't need them, really, did they?
I suppose we talk about St. Brendan's at the start. We were all at great hopes and everything. They probably are the most disappointing of the championship, because they never got going. They only kicked 5 points in the first game and 5 points in this game.
10 scores.
They're just so disjointed. You'd feel sorry for the management, because the management can do so much, but when they crossed the white line, it just didn't click at all for them. But you got to hand it to Dingle. They went out so professional again. Kicking their scores. They were always a danger up front. They had their defence, sorted. Also, but Brendan's were a big disappointment, all right, this year.
Yeah. And their reward is to go to Dr. Crokes.
Dr. Crokes, yeah.
Again, the Dr. Crokes will want to win, obviously.
Oh, they will, yeah, but it's like a challenge match, really, isn't it?
Yeah. But is it like a challenge match? Much like we'll say South Kerry and West Kerry coming to the end. There'll be players on that Crokes team that there's probably question marks about them in different positions. This is a chance to put a win on the board, get ready for next year. I mean, you don't want to sign off without a win, do you?
No, Crokes will definitely have their team. No, it'll be to see what Brendan's will bring will be the $1 million question. Our players just going to throw their hats at it and say, I'm not going, which could happen very easily on districts, any district board. So you'd hope it wouldn't, but like when you're after taking 2 bad beatings like that, very hard to get fellas to jump on board.
Yeah.
In fairness, like being at the game the last night, the conditions we spoke about it, Liam. They were in the game. It was really a kind of a shadow boxing for a bit, but I thought the black card had a huge influence in the game. The sending off had a huge influence in the game. Brandon Barrett, and the experience that Dingle have. You spoke about it, Liam. They're winning games now that they mightn't have won a few years ago, but their strength and depth is unbelievable. The gain is that Conor Sullivan, Niall Gainey, the last day. They have and Dara Sullivan. he dominated around the middle of the park. Missing the guys they're missing.
Yeah.
Certainly, they're looking very good in bad conditions in a real tough championship encounter. There was, it was on the edge by both teams, and they came out on top. But Clive Callan and the lads will be very disappointed because they have nothing to show for a lot of endeavour, and I think they'll be going to play the Crokes, both teams, but they'll be looking to say, yeah, we're better than this, and they are.
They need a performance, don't they? I mean, result for them possibly not.
And it's important for next year.
Yeah.
Because if you go and you get 3 bad beatings, it's going to be very hard to go around the town here next year to ask players to come into St. Brendan's. Because if they're playing with, if say for instance next year Stacks could be in the intermediate final, or whoever could be, it'll be very hard to pull them boys in to St. Brendan's team then. So you need to kind of have some light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, barring a miracle, they'll have one new team joining them anyway, won't they?
Yeah, well, another town team.
Yeah, there we go.
No, so,
this time next year we're talking about them as county champions maybe. A couple of comments coming in. Before we get to the comments, a quick word. Dingle and Gale, does it really matter who wins it? Is this a game Dingle can rest, can bring players on? Is this a game where
they have rested some fellas already, and I said they might rest a few more, because they've had a long run, including the club championship. So and the way the Gale are going, I said they'll be playing that team.
The only thing about it, like, if you would want to win the group because you don't want to be drawing East Kerry in a quarter final either.
You're scared of East Kerry for everything, aren't you?
That's the way I'd be looking at this. Army Kerry. You wouldn't want to be drawing any of them in a quarter final. You'd rather meet them in a semi final rather than a quarter final.
Well, you'll have to beat whoever you meet whenever you meet them.
But I'd say both teams we look at it is that they'll have a break for 2 weeks after this. Yeah. They'll have a go.
Yes.
And winner takes all then.
Provided you don't have too much of a go and get a sending off, or having too much of a go and getting somebody injured. A couple of comments. Donal, Dr. Croke's not making the knockout stages is something new for them. When was the last time did they not make the knockout stages? God, you're certainly asking the wrong man there anyway. It does not seem to be that long ago that people were saying that there was no team that could match them. They are now in the same danger as Austin Stacks. Well, I don't know if they're slipping down that, but I suppose, to be fair, Crokes last year, they lost the quarter-final to Dingle. They got a bit of a telling in that, didn't they? They didn't make it this year. Stacks won the quarter-finals last year, not even the championship this year. So maybe we'll see, listener. Donald, does the panel feel that Dana Dunhu should get a chance with Kerry? Another chance with Kerry even. In the last 2 weekends, he was really good. He stood out for Spa again yesterday. Far more than some other county players. Oh, there we go. That's really telling us. I think we've been beating the Dana Dunhu drum fairly handily. Donald, my query for the panel. There we go, lads. A question is, why has the county board changed the format of the league stages of the championship? Not just the county championship, but the club championship as well, where before the 2 losers from round 1 played each other and the 2 winners played each other, so that the final round, the group 3 teams who could qualify. At the moment, at least 2 groups have 2 teams already knocked out and are dead rubbers. Thoughts are with West Kerry having travelled to Carsiveen for a nutting match on Sunday. Oh, the Skull, listener. My God almighty. Paddy O'Shea wouldn't have agreed with you, a nutting match travelling all the way down to Carsiveen. I suppose nothing in the sense that you're not going to get out of it, but I mean, from the player's perspective, I mean, it's a game, it's a county championship game. Somebody has to win it. That's our thing. And another Dingle caller, God, we're always Kerry tonight, Liam, fair play to you. You've certainly got us a good few callers. Did you watch that game? Did you, Liam? Dingle caller says he wants to congratulate everyone in Lisbole on a fantastically ran match on the weekend. Plenty of parking and a warm welcome. Pity the weather didn't follow the script. I would like to say I think they should get more big games out there. Yeah, absolutely. That kind of goes along with the SD and the Nagales and of the whole lot. And as John said, it means an awful lot to a club. And Donald, the last comment before we take a break. Changes needed. Losers of the first round should be at home in the second round. How many dead rubbers now in next week? Plenty. I don't know if there's plenty. I mean, okay, South Kerry and West Kerry play each other. That's fair enough. I suppose Crokes and St. Brendan's, that's probably 2. Is there another one? The Shannon Rangers game is all alive. And the other group is well alive as well. Because
2 games.
So
no matter what way you do, you'll probably have that.
Have that, exactly. Yeah.
So we'll have to revise the plenty to to 50%, huh? I wonder who wrote that, huh? Good stuff. We'll take a quick commercial break. Now we're racing towards 7 o'clock and we have a couple more comments coming in, and we're going to change it, I suppose. It's technically County Championship and we're chatting about it and we're having loads of comments. You're going to love this one, Liam. I'll give this one to you, Liam. I'm going to give John the harder one after. Any club without a stand should not be considered for a championship venue. Don't answer. I have way worse coming up. There were games played this year without any lines or squares marked, and 3 sideline flags at one side and 4 at the other side. Not good enough when the referee has to pace out where the 45 is.
Well, yeah, that's for a county championship, for a big competition. At least I'd expect is the pitch to be marked properly.
Yeah.
And dugouts done. I think whatever about the supporters, I think the subs and the stuff like that, they should have the dugouts. I think dugouts, but the majority of facilities in Kerry now are top class. No, 1 or 2, all right, might be a short something, but as time goes on, they'll be getting better and better. But yeah, I would agree with your caller. I think when you're playing a competition like that, the least you need is your proper pitch lined out. No, and I think dugouts. I'd rather have dugouts than a stand.
You'd prefer to be in the dugout than the stand?
I'd rather for the teams.
You're going back playing, are you?
They're the crowds.
What about the fella who pays the €10 in to watch?
They're the people that we were coming in to watch.
Yeah.
You know, and there's nothing worse actually if you're a sub and you're wet and you're cold.
Yeah.
And you're trying to warm up.
Yeah. Your point is the player should be respected first. He needs to get that, of course, absolutely. Donal, I watched a lot of games on Clover over the weekend. Must be now watching you, John. Fair play. Could you ask the panel, why is it so hard for teams to wear the correct attire? Now here we're going, real county board stuff. Odd socks, odd shorts. Really, is this good enough for this level, John?
Yeah, it's not really, Donal, being honest with you, but you know, some teams they've impeccable gear, to be fair. They have tracksuits and they have all the training gear.
Is it hard enough to get the correct pair of shorts?
But I'll tell you, I think it's when you go to a game and you see it, Liam and myself, we'd be there early. You look at the warm-up, you look at the attitude of the management and of the players, professional setup, and invariably the teams that have all the small things right, you know, they're prepared well, and I know it's money, it's an issue, and you know it's hard enough to keep going. But I think, look, a togs and a socks, not a big deal to have them all the same. Now, I played in teams and you did, Liam, that no matter what togs or socks you give a guy, he'd wear his own anywhere, he'd wear a different socks, and some guys do that. But I think it's for the people up in the stand, you're looking down and you see a team, they come out with their training gear, they come out with their togs and socks properly done. I think it nice. shows
a bit of respect.
It does a bit of organisation.
Yeah. Another quick one. Was the Nagale defeat of Dr. Crokes one of the biggest shocks ever in the County Championship?
The biggest shock ever. To be one of them anyway.
Was, yeah.
In recent times, it probably
it would have been recent times. It would have been, yeah.
We'll let him away with that one. So, Donal, a lot of talk about the Crokes defeat. Oh my God, here we go. But the team that beat them have 3 Kerry senior players, including 2 that played in last year's All-Ireland. It really is a good point, isn't it?
It's a good point, yeah. And that goes back to our point as well, and we might have said it not this tonight, but before, Temple are the same.
Yep.
Now, if you think back to John Kennedy's time when was it Bale, when the Bomber and Ogie, and you need your county players to take you. And that's where you look at. That's when you look into the eyes of a county player, and you know he's a county player when he can pull a team along.
Talking about teams, Garveys have launched the team of the century. This century, where myself and my producer were chatting about it earlier. And of course, you can go to the Garvey shop and you can pull it out in the whole lot. So many great players on that list, and we'll put that up on Twitter and Facebook and all that and the whole lot. How easy a job is it, John Kennedy? Not your job, obviously, to pick the best 15.
It's an incredible. Like you know, we've said it before. Like the amount of players, the class, the talent. I mean, for every position, you could pick 5 or 6 players. But like I wouldn't envy the job. There'll be great players left out. But any time you pick any team in any sport, you're leaving out good players anyway. But I think the selectors have a tough job ahead.
And Liam, picking over time, I mean, we're talking about 2002 and 2008 and 2012 and the Kerry team of now. Is it something that's manageable?
It is manageable. Yeah, it definitely is manageable. But when I saw it first, briefly today, I saw it for a few minutes. I was thinking of the players, and I think it'll be dominated by Crokes and South Kerry, and deservingly so. because they have won the majority of the titles in that time. So it'll be interesting. And like John said, I wouldn't like to be the chef, but it's a county championship team, not a Kerry team that's been picked. No, it's like our team of the championship here.
Very important.
We get a lot of old stick from it as well. But it's not a Kerry team we're picking.
And usually at times, county players don't really stand out in the county championship. It's the club players, the average player is that guy, and that's what we're shining light on that.